What's up? Welcome. Come on in. Here. I just did a whole thing for 6 minutes. Apologies if we're actually just starting. I just did a whole little intro. Don't worry, you didn't miss anything though. And I'm not even sure if any of you saw that, but that's okay. Sometimes we're supposed to be warming up for a reason. Welcome now. We out here, Peter. What's up? Welcome. Come on in. We're going to let the room fill up, the virtual room, the global jazz piano room fill up for just a couple minutes before we get started here. And like I said in my intro that maybe didn't make it anywhere in the world, maybe it did, but I'll just repeat it. The title of this today is Nobody Believes This Is What I Practice. And so I'm a little bit nervous because I'm like, maybe you do believe this is what I practice. Maybe you think what I practice is well beyond this. But regardless, like I'm super excited about this. Warning, this is a concept that I've talked about before. But my friend Adam Manis reminded me yesterday that we can never hit the core principles enough. And I was thinking about the things that I practice at the piano are very much what a lot of people would consider basic, foundational, fundamental, easy, simple, slow, even out of time, like sort of the opposite of what I was just playing, just kind of playing around over all the things you are. And if you like all the things you are, you're going to like today's lesson because that's what we're studying. But the idea of like, that's more sort of the end result. Like, what are the things we need to practice to get to the point where we can hopefully express ourselves, tell our story over a great jazz standard like this, but make it unique, not make it cookie cutter, not just take things that we know from like a transcription. And like reharmonizations, all that kind of stuff. I think the possibility for those actually comes from a very fundamental way of practicing. And it's a way that I still practice to this day. And that's why we said, nobody believes this is the way I practice. So this is going to be very, I mean, it's very easy for where it starts. So even if you're a beginner, I think you're gonna be able to do this. If you know all the things you are and can play it, you're definitely gonna be able to do this. If you're just learning the tune, or if you're all the things you are curious, you're gonna be able to jump in on some of this because we're gonna break it down to its most basic elements. And then the difficulty level can kind of be ramped up and you can kind of calibrate that based upon what your level is, because we're going to be going through all 12 keys, or maybe you're going to be going through one key or two keys. That's where the fun is going to be. And we're going to be making some mistakes, and that's okay, because that's where we're really going to be able to start to progress in terms of, we make those mistakes and our ears are going to get better. We're going to have better ear training. I'm like, wait a second, I'm starting at the wrong place. So I sing it and I try to find that. That's when we start to make some progress and even some leaps and bounds with our ear training, which is what's so important to make all this other stuff happen one day. All right, so let me know where you are in the world before we get started, because that's always really fun for me. I'm coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. Rainy and relatively cool. Cool in terms of attitude and vibe, but also in terms of temperature. St. Louis, Missouri in the United States of America. I see England. Pontefract, England is in the house. What is happening? I see India. That's always fun. I really want to go to India someday. Could somebody bring me there? I guess I could just get on a plane and come there. But I want to come there for a reason, to play or to teach or something. Germany is in the house. Guten Tag. Montclair, New Jersey. All right. Staten Island in the great city of New York. Barcelona, Spain. Good to see everybody here. I really appreciate you guys being here on this Wednesday, hump day. I'm going to play all the stuff that we're not actually going to be practicing, but like I said, this is going to lead you there to the promised land. Did I see Orlando, Florida? That's but about 40 minutes or less from where I was born in 1970. A little town called DeLand, Florida. Or maybe it's Orlando, Argentina. There's a bunch of Orlandos in the world. Amsterdam today, Frankfurt tomorrow. Ann Arbor is in the house. What's up, Gordon? We got some OS Pro folks. And also, just in case you do like the concepts that we're going to go over today, we have some really cool notation and actually a whole system to kind of break this down over at Open Studio. And it's not going to be a PDF today because, well, maybe it will be. We'll see later. But the main thing to say is if you're not a member, come get your 14-day free trial. There's no obligation or anything, and you'll get access to a bunch of resources that'll support what we're going to do today. What's up, Switzerland? What's up, Italy? What's up, Ukraine? Kiev. St. Louis, California, Denmark. Lviv, Ukraine. I've been there and love that city very much. Argentina. All right, shall we get started? Let's do it. All right. What we're going to be talking about today, I think, is so important from the very, very beginner level, certainly through the intermediate level, and certainly, maybe even more importantly, as we get to the advanced level. And that's a very particular way of practicing all the things you are, which is what we're going to do today. The great jazz standard. But it can be used over a number of different kind of standards. It works especially well over standards, jazz standards like this that kind of move through a bunch of keys and have sort of an inner logic that we'll talk about as we go through this. But the idea on this is like, how do we learn a song and then practice it at its most basic levels and then start to port that out relatively quickly to different keys, maybe even to all 12 keys, depending on your skill level, your ambition level, the amount of time you practice. But we're going to be getting into that, not transposing, just moving through different keys. Okay, so when we look at this tune, and you can look at the PDF, you can look at the sound slice, and you can look at these things. They're great aids, but I encourage you also to think about doing this by ear as well. And if we break down the melody, that's the first 8 bars. So we're going to call that the first phrase. We're also going to break that into 2-bar phrases. But for the purpose of this is our first kind of bigger, complete phrase. And what we want to think about is where are we starting? The melody starts here on A flat. And what key are we in? Key of A flat. Easy stuff. So we're going to take just the melody and we're going to pull it out of time. We're not going to worry about the groove. We're not going to worry about counting. We're really going to simplify and isolate this so that we learn this melody in a little bit, maybe a new way, where we're really focusing on ear training. So I'm going to play it first with the changes. Okay, so we want to try to recognize some patterns. We especially want to recognize some pattern interruptions. We want to be able to find any kind of connective tissue that we can just within the melody first. Then we're going to go just to the root movement and treat like that like a melody. Okay, so the first thing I see is, okay, there's 2 things that are important here. Where we're starting, and we already know in the key of A flat. So as you practice, don't just say, oh, I already know that. I know the tune. No, we're trying to approach it from a different place. So like, how many different ways can we hear where this melody starts? So the way I've still practiced this, and that's what I'm saying, nobody believes I do this because they're like, you've known the tune for 30 years, 40 years, however long you've known it for. The older I get, the longer I've known it, right? But the idea is like, no, I absolutely do it like this because this is how I open up my ears to do all the other stuff. So if I go da, 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 before I even go on, I'm thinking da, 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 do, be, do, bo, do, boo, de, do, do. I'm moving around, I'm on the tonic, but I want to hear the leading tone, maybe the 5th, the 3rd, sharp 11, whatever I need to do to kind of acclimate my ears, and then I can go back to da, right? Because when we play, it's one level. When we sing and play, that's another level. But when we sing and then play, we're really able to test our ears and start to calibrate kind of like, where are we actually with our ear training? Are we making some mistakes in terms of what we're singing? Because that's the closest thing. Da, na, na, no, 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 no. No, that's wrong. Na, 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 na. Like, how accurately are we actually hearing this melody? Not just do we know it, can we read it, can we memorize it, but can we hear it? Okay? So, like all the way until we get to here, there's some interesting things that are happening with that melody that we want to learn. But I'm starting to see a pattern. But then it changes, right? Because everything's diatonically within our tonic. Until we hit that B natural, right? And then we're at something different. So those something different places are really important because we're just riding along and our ears are going to hear things in a certain way until we get there. Right? That's that tritone. But what else is it? It's perfect fifth, but it's below it. Half step below, leading tone to the perfect fifth. So I'm finding different ways to hear that. Okay? So what else do we see with this melody? Well, I want to know about that interval. That's a perfect fourth, right? And then the next one, another perfect fourth. All right? That's where I get that. So I want to know that. Those are actually some different kinds of fourths too, but for this part, it's all perfect fourths. I want to be able to get that in my ear. Donna, 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 seventh, third, sixth, ninth, sixth, ninth. I said I didn't quite hear that one, so I want to go back. Da, 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 da. That's because I was hearing it as that B natural, that pattern interruption in terms of the melodic content, right? What else can I kind of see with this? Da, 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 da. Of course, we're repeating this note. Da, 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 da. That's one of the easier ones to kind of hear. Da, 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 da. Check in with yourself once you've got a little bit away from where you know, like we're starting, right? On that major. On the tonic. Up to the fourth. Major seventh leading tone. Right? Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Let's check in ourselves there. Where are we in relationship to the root? Right? Major third. Da, 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 na, na. What is that? Da, 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 da. Find some different places. They don't have to just be scale tones, diatonic scale tones. They can be da na na da na na da na na da na na. It can be chromatic, but find something, sing it, and then get back to where you are. Now we're at a very important place. I'm going to skip ahead. We're actually at C major, right? We started at A flat major. We actually started at F minor, the relative minor. We're going to get to that in a second. But we started at A flat. We went to some different places. So now we're somewhere new. We don't need to know what it is yet because we don't have the root movement, but I can tell you it's the third. 3, 2, 1. So that's where you're checking in. We did all this. 3, 2, 1. That's our new tonic. It's C major, but it doesn't matter because if we're in another key, it'll be something else. Okay? Now we really are starting to know the melody, the phrase. We're not talking about the lyrics or anything, all that other stuff, the rhythm, the time, how we're going to play it, that's all important. But now we're just getting the melodic flow, where the notes lie and where they don't lie within whatever pattern we can find. In this case, the diatonic, tonic, right? And you want to try to, find those places that are reference points for you. I'm just showing you some. You'll be able to find a bunch more, and that's the fun part of this. And that's why this is still what I practice, and people don't believe it, because I'm always finding new ways to relate to this stuff. Donna, donna, donna. That's what we would expect. Donna, 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 donna. But it's not. So you find those reference points to really drill that into your ear. Okay. Before we go on further, we got 8 bars in so far, the most important 8, because if we can hear and understand these 8, we're going to be able to pattern recognize on a bigger level as we learn this tune and start to see some repetition, which is rampant in this tune, but is really occurs a lot in a lot of different standards, and a lot of different great music in general, and in nature, repetition, okay? So we're going to abandon the melody. We've got the melody. We're confident with that, and we're going to go to the root movement. So we know that the tune is in A flat major, is the original key. it starts on F minor, right? So we want to orient ourselves to the tonic key. So what is the first chord in relation to the tonic key? It's down a minor third. So you can hear that interval, da, da, and sing that, but you can also da, you can stepwise down, or you can da, 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 chromatic down, or it can be da, da, surrounded. All these different ways, or it can be bum, ba, da, ba, da, ba, da. Multiple ways to hear something. That's how you develop your ears. Okay, so we're minor third down, and then from a theoretical standpoint, we're at the relative minor, which is important too, because once we start taking this to different places, if we say we're going to do it in F major, it's nice to be able to know, well, I know it starts on the relative minor, which is D minor. That's got the same key signature, 1 flat, and we know the melodies up here. A little foreshadowing, not that, and now we're in a new place, 3, 2, 1, E major. Back to the original key. Just the root movement. So we're starting on F minor, relative minor, minor third down from the tonic, and then it goes to B flat minor 7, and then to E flat 7, then to A flat 7, to D flat major, D minor, to G7, to C major. Okay, so I know this, but the way I still practice is I'm trying to hear this, and I'm trying to pattern recognize. So if I move these together, what do we see? That's all perfect fourths, right? Until it gets to there. That's the place it changes. Everything else is moving up in fourths or moving down in fifths. It's the same thing. We're going to kind of shift back and forth. Up a perfect fourth, down a perfect fifth. Up a perfect fourth, down a perfect fifth. And then 2-5 to our new place, right? Now, that's the thing I want to hear. The fourths, I feel like I can kind of get. But that's the new part. A little spoiler alert, it's the same measure. The new part, the non-diatonic part occurs in the melody as well. Have you noticed that as I'm telling you this, how many times I've played this? I played this thousands of times, maybe 10,000s of times in my life, but that doesn't mean I don't keep doing it. Because every time I play it, I'm hearing it, right? No, 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 I'm challenging myself. No, ha, 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 ha. And if I want to do it, ha, 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 or ha, ha, ha. And as I'm doing that, I'm thinking about, I'm hearing harmony. I might play on it later. Ha, ha, ha. Substitute harmony. Okay? So in order to develop advanced arrangement techniques, substitutions, inner voice movements, whatever that kind of stuff, you have to leave some blank space in your practice. And I think that's what people are always surprised, like when they hear me practice, and sometimes people come in here and they're like, wow, that's really basic and boring what you're playing. I'm thinking about, and I'm imagining, and I'm hearing stuff. Maybe I'm not sometimes, that's okay too, but I'm leaving that white space for something to happen. It's like if you have to write something, with written language, whatever language you speak, Japanese, English, whatever, and you need to write something. If you have a computer screen with a bunch of different things open on it, and a Word doc with its halfway, and then you make, kind of type a line and then say, I'm going to write here. That's a lot harder than maybe going to a beautiful park with a beautiful vista with just one blank page, right? And a pencil. And that's the closest that I can find to practicing the piano, like to doing that same kind of thing. That's kind of what this is. Okay? And so we're breaking it down with these different elements. We're going to start putting them together in a second. And then maybe challenge yourself to jump up this time, and then 2-5, 2-5, because we already got 2-5. There's always different ways you can challenge yourself to hear this basic stuff. All right? And I'm also trying to hear no, 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 no. Hear that melody on top of it before we even get to the inner voices. All right? Now, let's talk about some pattern interruptions. We know we got the perfect fourths moving here until they don't. What do? Slides up a half step, right? You hear I'm like physically, or you see, I'm like I want to feel that, so that no matter what key I'm in, that tells me where to go. I don't have to think about what key I'm in. I know once I get to that part, I don't even remember where did I start. Was that D minor? I slide up a half step, and that's the 2, 5, 1. That's why it's so important for you to know your 2, 5, 1s in all keys. But that's simple, right? It's not necessarily easy, although it's relatively easy if you practice them every day and you slowly add them on and come back and review them. But regardless, 2, 5, 1s are super important because that's a pattern. It's a harmonic pattern or progression that you're going to see a lot in these standards. So in order to be able to do this thing where you take it through all 12 keys in a very holistic kind of organic way, it's great to be able to have some of those underpinnings already in your fingers and in your ears. Okay? Slide up. And then this also tells me everything I need to know because I know it's a major 7. Wherever I landed. Slide up a half step. I'm already hearing that, right? Major 7. Okay? So that's what it is. That's the first 8 bars for the root movement, the melody. So if you don't have those, take your time, practice them. There's not a lot of notes there, but you still want to go slow and you want to get off of the page, right? Because that's when you let your ear start to take over, start to absorb these things. And you want to go slow to give your ears a chance to catch up with your fingers. If you can look at a page and, you know, depending on how good your reading is, or maybe you've listened to it or something, you can usually get into playing it quicker than your ears can actually absorb it. So take your time, sing along, sing with what you're playing, and then try to sing before you play. Now, after you've got that, we're going to put this together, right? So we're establish ourselves, our tonic key. Maybe play some triads. Orient yourself, maybe a little sing. Stay within the diatonic, unless you want to play around and leave it. Whatever you want to do, but this is like the downward dog part of practicing, right? Easy, basic, but fun and important. All right, now the melody starts on the tonic, right? And the root starts here, bottom, remember? So that's that big pattern interruption. That's when we're leaving diatonic. We're in diatonic, right? We could have kept going like that. And then where are we? C major. That's our new little quick temporary tonic. We start A flat major, F minor actually, then we go to C major. Now we're starting to understand the construction of the tune from a more 360 degree type of situation. We're not just looking at it one way, we're looking at it 2 ways now. The melody of the root movement, which is always going to be there. And you know, I practice all the time. You know, once I get the time going, I want to practice. Very basic, or even just whole notes. We're just kind of minimum amount of root information that forces me to inform and define the harmony with what I'm doing melodically on top. Okay? But we're not even there yet. We're just melody. All right, we have one more element that we need to add in to be able to kind of have that 360 view of what's happening. And this is what we've been hopefully starting to hear by having that white space in the middle. And that's the shell. Very simple, right? This is the other part of what nobody believes I practice. They're like, oh, you just tell people to do the shells because they're beginners. No, I practice these all the time. Root shell pretty, root and melody, root shell pretty and melody. Like these are the building blocks, and I come back to them all the time to be the jumping off point to add other things. Okay, so the shell, 3rd and the 7th, that's all it is. Or the 7th and the 3rd. We use some good voice leading if we can. If we can't, no problem. But we've always got the 3rd and 7th. So F minor, minor 3rd, dominant 7th. And so if you know this stuff and you're about to like zone out, don't. Now is the time to be able to hear it. Na, 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 Now we're going to sing it before we play it. Na, this is the top line. Na, 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 na. Pattern interruption, the third of the dominant 5 chord that's going to our temporary tonic. It's a B. Right? Okay? Na, 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 na. Now let's do the bottom note. Did we start with the third one? Yeah, we started with the third. Na, 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 na. So that one's interesting. Na, 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 na. It's not until it gets to that last chord, that C major. All that's diatonic within our tonic key. It's not until we get to the last note, whereas the other ones go a couple beats before. So you start to notice little things like that as you're singing, and you get these basic elements. This is for those that say shells are boring. Diminished also. Okay, so that's just, that's a little bit later down the road, but I encourage you to take each of these things as you start to grasp them, as you start to understand them, keep it basic, keep those restrictions, keep those guardrails. It's like when you go bowling and you're not very good, don't end up in the gutter. Put up the little kid guardrails. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, now, I should have actually even done this earlier, but I wanted you to give you kind of a feel for this. But once you start to get this, you want to quickly go to another. Well, I did. I showed you when I went to the other keys. But you're going to actually want to do that, all the way from the beginning. So we have that first 4-bar phrase. Let's take that to another key, just the melody, right? So wherever we start, that's going to be the tonic, right? So let's start something easy, C major. We all love C major. So we orient ourselves around C major. We know the melody's starting there. Maybe we can sing it if we don't know what notes it is. Although we know that perfect fourth, right? And we know we're moving diatonically until we're not. Let's see if we can do it. And then you're like, wait, what's the note? What key am I in? Don't worry about it. We're not thinking about chords or anything. We're not thinking about keys. We're thinking about the melodic pattern and just taking it to another place. Tritone, da, maybe below that perfect fifth, above the perfect fourth, however you need to hear it. And then we know we're going to go down. We go up here, easier to sing. Down a major third, major third. Major third of where we end up temporarily, E major. So we didn't have to think about it. I didn't even know where I was at, right? Okay, let's do the same thing with the root movement. C major. Where do we start? Minor third down. And then we go up a perfect fourth, up a perfect fourth, up a perfect fourth. Now, is this about the time where we do the... It is. Okay? This one, if you start to put it with the melody together a little quicker, it'll make a little more sense. Because we know we're about to go there, right? 2, 5, 1, right? And look at that melody. That's actually the shell. That's another kind of, connective tissue in terms of what's happening. That's the shell of the 5 of your 2-5-1. Dominant 7th and 3rd. And then goes down to the 3rd. That's not part of the melody, but you can hear that. All those little things you can find and identify and most importantly hear are going to be hugely important. So we got... Let's just take those first 8 bars, and this is the way you do it. Don't worry about taking the whole tune. We're getting our ears acclimated to different places. Let's go somewhere that's maybe considered hard. G flat major. So we're gonna acclimate ourselves. Do you like to call this F sharp major or G flat? I like calling it G flat major. I don't know. Okay, so the melody's there. Relative minor, G flat major. Let's just try to go. So now, if you know, another good reason to really know your scales, practice them in different ways. Broken thirds, broken fourths. You know, kind of knowing your way around these different keys is going to help. No problem if some of them are harder. They should be harder. That's one of the challenges we have, that this kind of practice, even if you feel like you know it like I do, like I feel like I know it, it's a great review. Like this always gets me back into like, whoa, that key's a little bit, I can do it, but it's a little bit, I need to practice my scales. Maybe I need to practice them with broken fourths. It's a great kind of reminder that we want to get that equalization in our comprehension of all these different 12 keys, and that we can take advantage of the great ear training that that will give us as we go there. And maybe here I go there by accident, and then I'm like, wait, something's wrong. It's okay, just fish around till you find it. Those are kind of can be breakthroughs for your ears, if you can hear them. Now we're in a new place, we haven't even thought about it. B flat major. Now I'll give you a little clue. This is as far as we're gonna go with the tune for today. I'm gonna show you one more thing on it. But as you keep going, keep trying to identify these patterns. Where do we go next? Let's go back to the original key at the end of the 8 bars. Right, we're here. Now, what do we hear? What do we see? We're going from this to this. What is that? Major to minor. That's an important thing so that when we get in, wherever we go, and we're like, what do we do next? Major to minor. And now we're at the bridge. Find those little connectors between the sections, because those are the places where you're going to be like, wait, what's going on? And so you can kind of, you know, like I did there, you know, intellectually say that goes from major to minor between the 8th and 9th bar. But more importantly is to hear, be able to hear it. Okay? All right, we're going to kind of stop there after I show you this one more part. And just a reminder, over at Open Studio, I actually just did a whole breakdown of this, of the whole tune. We've got this all on SoundSlice, which is a great system that kind of helps you cheat. But I think it's good for people that are more visual learners, where you can actually just go through this tune with these root and shell, root and melody, or just the melody, or just the root, a separate or apart, and just go through and click, like go to C major, go to D major, go to E, and then the notation just bling, the key signature, everything. So if you're more of a visual learner, or you want to read this stuff and don't feel confident enough to go through it sans music, consider joining it's a free trial. So you could just do that for 2 weeks and then leave if you don't like it. I think you'll find some things you like, but we've got that over at Open Studio. There will be a link below to do that. But the last thing I want to show you for this video is the connection between the melody and the root. Now, we've played them together. We played the shell with the root, and then, you know, there's, of course, next levels. We're gonna be putting all this stuff together. But I want you to kind of think about this last thing, because these intervals can be a little bit more advanced, but striving for them in terms of at least hearing them and recognize them as we practice. And we've got this great opportunity to have everything open, the big white page, right? That it's just another way to kind of hear things. So we're thinking about horizontally, right? As we move through that melody, what those intervals are and how they connect to the next one and from where it's coming from. This is a way of thinking more vertically and trying to be able to hear the intervals and how they connect with each other sounds that are going on at the same time. So if we break it down here, what's the connection between this that minor third? We have that in terms of from the tonic, we know that. So it's a minor 10th or minor third. We want to be able to hear that, right? And then we go to the next one. Oh, look, it's the same thing. Minor 10th, minor third. Right? Major third this time. So minor third, major third, major third, major third, minor third, sort of temporary to major third to major third. I'm sorry, minor third on the D minor, major third on the G, major third. I mean, really, you should think about it, minor third on the 2, major third on the 5, major third. So that's kind of how I hear this as I go through and practice it like this. I want to hear that relationship, that interval, that vertical moment of how that interval sounds as opposed to how the interval is moving horizontally. As we start to learn these things, simplify and isolate them, and let our ears get acclimated to that, eventually we're going to be able to hear things in many different ways. And that's where the magic can happen. And that's why I'm saying, like, practice this stuff simply, keep coming back to it, and don't be afraid. Like, if you want to be able to play stuff like this, and like get off a little bit, but go to some interesting exploratory places, you have to be able to hear what's happening on that fundamental level, even as you go to other places. I know that sounds tricky, and it is, but if you take your time and really work on it, and I see somebody saying, what does he mean by shell? And I'll just tell you this, shell is the 3rd and the 7th and the root. That's all a shell is. No matter what kind of chord it is, if major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, root, 3rd and 7th. And it doesn't matter if the 7th or the 3rd is on top. Okay? But to do this stuff, rhythmic stuff that goes in there too, but we always like to kind of, mess with the harmonic stuff. Starts here. Because then you start to hear all those other things around that foundation. And then you can even start to abandon some of that foundation, but you're still kind of hearing it. It's like this little like undercurrent that's still under there. Okay? But don't be afraid to come. If you can do some of the other stuff, that's good, and you want to extend more with it, practice like this. That's what I do. Like, I'll practice just one thing, like left hand melodies. I mean, I'm absolutely practicing like this all the time. Ask the folks around here at Open Studio. They'll tell you. All right. I hope this is a good introduction for you. Like I say, we got some great resources for this. A brand new lesson that goes deep, deep, deep on this. And some great resources for you to kind of read along for the visual learners out there. So you can check that out on the free trial. Let's take some questions. We got some folks here. Thank you for being here. It's Wednesday. It is hump day. There was some disagreement as to what hump day is in my past, but I know what it is now. It's the middle of the week, Wednesday. But I like Wednesdays because we're still have the promise of the week and we haven't extinguished it yet. All right. If you put a question in earlier, maybe consider putting it in again because I want to answer some. But I may not be able to go back because stuff is flying by. All the things you are. Yes, indeed. Numbers are far easier to conceptualize objectively. So, you know, and I'm not even sure what this is talking about, but it brings up a great point in terms of are you learning this visually? Are you learning it based on how it feels at the keyboard? Are you learning about how it sounds? Are you learning about how just one hand feels and you're looking at the melody and just chord changes? Are you looking at an actualized version of how to practice? Like, these are all ways that we can learn a song or a way to practice. There's no right or wrong answer with that. I know I used to be very dogmatic, like learn it by ear, take it through all 12 keys. And I think that that's hugely beneficial. But you know, getting an assist from the page, nothing wrong with that. I would just say kind of like use it back and forth. So if you're not able to easily, and by easily I mean take something simple and just do it out of time, like the melody and the root, say for the first 8 bars in like any key, that's okay. You can use, you know, the chart and put the transposition thing and boom, you're there. But if you can kind of do it, but you're making some mistakes, try to hear through that and to make those adjustments because that's where your ear training breakthroughs, I think, will likely occur. Hi, Peter. Is there any chance to have Benny Green as a tutor on Open Studio? I would love to. I have asked him. Maybe you guys, if you would ask him, if you would reach out to him on his social medias. That sometimes works better than me. But I'm trying. We do have, am I allowed to announce who we have coming in to record tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Okay, we have Larry Goldings.
There's a giant B3 right here.
Oh yeah, that's kind of, well, they can't see it on the camera. There's a giant B3 sitting here. Larry Goldings is coming in to do what I think is going to end up being primarily an organ course, although we might have him on some keys and some piano. So that's going to be coming soon. We're super excited about that. What are some essential solos over this tune? Charlie Parker, for sure. I mean, it's funny. Like I wouldn't have used to said like Brad Meldau over this is essential, but it's certainly interesting. You know, if you like that, then that's certainly a recommended. I mean, essential solos I think should always come from stuff, if possible, first and foremost that you love. Okay. Now, if you love a horrible version of something, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't take the time to learn the solo because you're not going to get a lot out of it, or maybe you will. I don't know. But hopefully it's something good. But you don't have to be like, oh, it has to be this person. You know, Coleman Hawkins' version of Body and Soul because that's the most famous and all the Berklee College of Music says it's the best, that you have to learn that version. No, if you've got another version that you love, learn that. So I would say that kind of just jumps to mind, Brad Meldau. But definitely Charlie Parker. I mean, that Charlie Parker solos, like, even if people aren't familiar with them, once they start to play them, like, there's so much sort of melodic and harmonic, and certainly, you know, we didn't really talk a lot about rhythm today, but rhythmic logic and instruction built into them. Like that, like it's kind of like playing Bach chorales. Like, it just teaches you about harmony without having to tell you anything. It's all in the notes. And I think that Charlie Parker's, many of his solos, if not all of them, to different degrees, kind of gives you that. Lee Konitz and Lenny Tristano, absolutely. That'd be a great version. People can drop into here if they have some other ideas on versions I'm not thinking of. How do you keep these iconic tunes interesting for yourself? Switzerland in the house. What's up, Switzerland? My wife and I, the beautiful Kelly Martin, beautiful and talented Kelly Martin, and I were just looking at a video on YouTube of Switzerland last night, and she noted to me that she has never been to Switzerland, and myself has been there many times, so I need to rectify that soon because I told her it's one of the most beautiful places, obviously visually, but the people, beautiful people. People of many languages in that country, but it's a cool place. Okay, how do we keep these iconic tunes interesting for yourself? You know, for me, and I think this is part of the nobody believes this is how I practice, it's very much going back to basics with it. Like, I find practicing it, you know, and then thinking about imagining, acclimating to what I could play over it, that keeps it interesting to me because then I know I'm going to have a chance later in my practice to start to kind of open things up. So it's like start with a little bit of handcuffs on, but you've got the key, but wait a little bit. And then when the handcuffs come off, you're like, whoa, it can be fun, but you're getting a chance to, imagine some things and connect with our ears. So I certainly think that's important. I think sometimes listening to versions, not of like the particular tune that you want to keep fresh, but just of another potentially stale tune. So like if you take like a great version of, some tune that you think shouldn't be still fresh in the hands of like a modern master. I'm thinking like Sullivan Fortner. He's got some great versions of just a number of tunes that you're like, what? How did he pull that off? So look at what the ideas, the techniques, the mechanism of how he keeps that tune fresh in his recorded rendition, or if you get a chance to see him live. And he's just an example. There's so many great folks, whoever you like. But like, what is it that he does with that tune that keeps it fresh, like that it feels like it's fresh to him and then ultimately to the listener? Then see if you can apply those same techniques to all the things you are. So a lot of times we're like, oh, we got to go find a hip version of all the things you are. It's like, no, just find a hip version of any stale standard. And then you can use that, for your tunes. Pat Metheny with Roy Haynes and Dave Holland is killer. Yeah, I mean, I heard that trio live a few times, and that's powerful. I don't know that recording, but I'm sure it's amazing. I believe that Sonny Rollins used to write his own solos beforehand. Wow, I didn't know that. I mean, I wonder if he might have written that as some kind of exercise. I doubt he would write it out and then use that in the recording. I could be wrong though. That would be the first time hearing of it. Thank you, Chayla. See, she's on it, reaching out to Benny Green on it. Yeah, we've asked him to do mentor sessions, and I think we may be close on it. He's been busy and doing a lot of stuff in life. I saw him recently, and he's such a man. His playing, like the first time I heard him, he was at 10 out of 10. He's maintained it somehow. I mean, he hasn't like, I don't know, man. I remember doing a tour in 1995 with I was playing with the Joshua Redman Quartet, 94, maybe 95. I think it was 95. And Benny Green Trio, we did a double bill tour for 3 weeks in Japan. We played 3 Blue Note clubs, like Monday through Saturday, Monday through, like whatever that is, 18 gigs. Back to back, both sets. Like both groups would play like 35 minutes or whatever, 40 minutes. And so I got to hear him every night, and we hung a lot then. And I'd heard him before then. But that was like, and then after the gig, we'd all be taking the van back together, both bands. It was Christian McBride and Kenny Washington on drums with Benny Green's trio. And so like both bands would be taking the van back to the hotel, and most nights Benny wouldn't be with us. He would stay at the club and practice. So that's how you stay 10 out of 10. All right, I'm gonna do a couple of thank you, Augustine. My favorite bald jazz piano player and teacher who uses glasses. You're amazing. Taylor Eitze. So we've had Taylor Eitze do several, at least 2 mentor sessions for us, which were fantastic. He did a mind-blowing thing on with fingering on scale practice that like I don't, it's so obvious and beneficial that I was shocked that I had never seen it or thought of it. And I think he invented it. And it's kind of slipped under the radar because Adam and I were like very geeked out on it, but I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it. But that mentor session is actually still, all of our mentor sessions are available in the archives for our members. So like there's that, but yeah, we definitely want to have him do a course for sure. And we're working on it. Bach chorales and fugues are the best. Who's going to argue with that? You are correct, ma'am, or sir, or you. Okay. Please send me an email so I'll send it to him. Okay, that's probably not for me. Also, and there might be some things in here about, oh no, maybe there's not. I thought I saw somebody. I know I was probably not playing the melody exactly correct on this tune, which I may not even know it exactly correct. So we did a recent podcast on jazz snobbery, and I would say that I know we are aware that there are the types of jazz standard snobs, right? And those are ones that are like really You didn't play the melody right. So I'm not that kind of a snob. I'm more of an ignorant one. Okay, I think we're good. I'm going to release you guys today. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to be back. I think we have well, you know what? If you're not subscribed to the channel, just subscribe. And if you like these lives, we're going at some different odd times because we like to play in odd times. So hit the notification bell. Full disclosure, I am subscribed to this channel. I don't have the notification bell though, because I don't like notifications. But if you want to catch us live when we're not announcing it, at least subscribe, because then you'll get an email, I believe. Hit the notification if you want to know, because we're going live. We go live all the time, like we say. All right, until next time, happy practicing.